Good morning and grand rising, everyone. Let's thank our band. We got some wonderful music this morning. A great way for us to start our time together. All right, getting used to a new mic. Oh, we have been traveling down this wonderful road all year with this beautiful idea of being open at the top. And if I haven't mentioned it, in case you're new here, in case you're new on our love stream, my name is Dr. Alice Reid, and I am the spiritual leader here at the Center for Spiritual Living, Capistrano Valley. And you are welcome here. You are welcome home. This is indeed our spiritual home, where we come together each week to remember who we are. And we have this topic, this theme that we run through every year. We pick a theme and we begin to explore the dimensions of it. And I think when I look at the theme that we have chosen this year, I feel like we have really pushed our edge, because here we are looking at this idea of being open at the top. And I don't know about you, but open on the top is a pretty big idea. Open at the top is the phrase that our founder, Ernest Holmes, who founded the Science of Mind and Centers for Spiritual Living, 100 years ago, he used to say that about this philosophy. And what he meant by that is that this philosophy is not static, that it continues to evolve, it continues to grow, it continues to expand as we practice it, as we continue to work with it, as we continue to have new voices in it, as the world keeps spinning the way the world has been spinning. We are open at the top because we live in this dynamic universe where everything is always informing, touching, connecting with everything else. And so if we're not open at the top, man, we're just regurgitating yesterday, aren't we? Yeah. And so we have to be open at the top. And this month's theme is this lovely idea of possibility, and we framed it as, what if? You may remember Patrick Harpula was here a couple of months ago, and he taught this great class, Busting Loose, from the Money Game. And one of the phrases that I took out of it, Mary and I will be in the office and we'll be talking about something, and we'll be like, wouldn't it be fun if? Wouldn't it be fun if? And so this topic is a lot like that. It's about imagining something new. And I talked about imagination when I was here with you 2 weeks ago. And then I believe when I watched Reverend Karen's message from last week, she began to really bring that home with the ideas of really trusting and leaning into this idea of imagination. And we're playing with this song from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, Pure Imagination. And so I have that song running through my head, and I'm going to do you all a favor and not sing it right now. So but I tell you, those lyrics are going through my head, and I invite you to bring those lyrics forward too, because it's very uplifting. And despite that, there's a lot of things not to be uplifted about going on. I don't know about you, but that's what I'm seeing. Our topic this week is defying expectations. Defying expectations. What does that mean? Well, when I think about this idea of defying explanation, which is actually the line of the song that within that Pure Imagination song, when I think about that, I think I've had a couple of experiences that have defied explanation. How about you? Anybody? Anybody have experiences through living this philosophy and walking out this teaching of having experiences that defied explanation? Yeah, I've had a few too. And just to be clear, when I'm talking about defying explanation, too many X words, when I'm talking about defying explanation, I'm really talking about this idea that we are working with a philosophy that really is open at the top and anything is possible. But I'm not necessarily talking about magical Santa Claus thinking. But I am kind of talking about magical thinking, but I'm talking about spiritual magical thinking. And not in the way that hocus pocus, pull a rabbit out of the hat, although who has had a demonstration that felt like somebody pulled a rabbit out of a hat? Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. But that demonstration comes because you were ready for it. The soil of your consciousness, the soil of your beliefs was fertile. And so you had a demonstration. You had something that happened to you that felt almost magical. And I'm not talking about this idea that we're just going to sort of gloss over the reality that we might be experiencing globally with our friends, our neighbors, our community, our country, or the world. But I am wanting to bring home to you today this idea that you are a participant in that reality. There are no innocent bystanders in the reality that we create together. You are always a choice about what you're creating. And I think Reverend Karen's talk really brought that home last week, and I know her class is bringing that home. She's really talking about how we use our thoughts and our behavior and the ways that we operate in the world. You know, sometimes in my experience, the way that we have a demonstration, the way that things shift, the way that we move into a new experience, it's not so easy all the time, right? Not so easy all the time. And the way that we make space for a new possibility comes from our spiritual practice. It comes from the way we hold things. It comes from the way we speak to things. And this is really like a razor's edge, friends, because it, I remember dealing with difficult circumstances, like not having enough money for a really big bill, and then walking around just mimicking or parroting, "Thank God I'm rich," when I knew I was not rich. Because they were calling me and telling me I wasn't rich. I was getting phone calls and bills. The world was telling me, "Girl, you ain't rich." So I'm not talking about that, but sometimes we need to ease into that idea by having some expectations while we're living out the realities of whatever we're experiencing. When I look at we used to call it news, now I'm calling it our feed, right? It's our information feed, whatever that might be for you. Some use social media, some are actually, God bless you, who is still reading a real newspaper? Yeah, not many hands, not many hands. A lot of us get our information digitally, and there's a lot of heaviness in that information that's coming through. And so when we look at the world and we see what it's offering up to us, it's offering divisiveness and discord and fighting and wars and scams and spam. It can feel a little heavy. And oftentimes when we buy into what the world is feeding us, that's why it's called a feed, friends, because we're being fed information. And often when we take in what the world is feeding us, it can leave us feeling kind of powerless and small. And I want to say that the reason that happens is because they don't know Who's they? Well, anybody who doesn't know that we're participants in this experience that we call life. Over the years, I have walked alongside many people who experience challenges, real life experience challenges, not enough money, losing a job, losing a loved one, facing a difficult diagnosis. I've walked alongside people like that, and there's a little saying I want to appropriate, and that saying is, when the going gets tough, what's the rest of it? Right, I knew you would know it. I knew you would know it. But what if we appropriate that and we say, when the going gets tough, our spiritual practice gets going, right? Because it's our spiritual practice that brings us back to center. It's our spiritual practice that brings us back to grounding. And maybe another way to say this, or to put it another way, is that sometimes the blessing is not necessarily the removal of the difficulty or challenge, but the blessing is the awakening it brings. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah, sometimes I get dropped into the Vitamix of life and things look challenging and I want to shrink. And then when I get to the other side of it, I say, oh, that's why that happened. Oh, I wouldn't have experienced this if that didn't happen. It's easy to get overwhelmed, right? It's easy to begin to identify with the difficulties. What do you do when you step into a challenge or a difficulty? Do you look for co-conspirators? People who are going to agree with you? Ain't it awful? Yeah, me too. I do that too. It's our human nature to want to connect with each other. But if you're practice this philosophy for any amount of time, what you'll begin to notice is you really can't hang out there too long. That you realize that there's another place for you to be when things get tough. That there's another place for you to have it in your mind, to begin to understand that maybe this is just another AFGO. Do you know what an AFGO is? It's another fabulous growth opportunity. Except you have to say it with a little sarcastic spin when you say fabulous. Right? It's another fabulous growth opportunity. And when those things happen, we have to pause. We have to begin to slow down a little bit. To pay attention to how we're holding it, to pay attention to how we're feeding it, to pay attention to how others might want to feed whatever it is that's coming up for you. I heard this story that I want to share with you that I think is really appropriate for this idea. There was a young monk who went to an elder in his monastery and said, I want to grow spiritually, but life keeps bringing things I don't know how to deal with. Fear, disappointment, uncertainty. How do I stay grounded when life feels unpredictable? The elder listened quietly and said something really simple, something that I think we could all use. He simply said, welcome everything, push away nothing. The young monk was startled. What? Everything? Some of you may be saying the same thing. What? Everything? And the elder replied, yes, everything, because God can use everything. And I'm not talking about celebrating or looking for suffering or pretending painful things are good. I'm merely suggesting that we trust that life is still unfolding through every experience, even the ones we would never choose. I am reminded of a beautiful declaration that Emma Curtis Hopkins often used. Now, if you don't know who Emma Curtis Hopkins is, she was considered the teacher of teachers. She lived in the late 1800s, in the sort of when New Thought, what's known as the one true American spiritual path, when it was really becoming a thing in the Transcendental movement. She was the teacher of teachers. She taught many of the New Thought leaders of today and yesterday even. No, not today. No, she was she was dead long before the spiritual leaders of today. But I still am taught by her through her writings. And what one of the things that she said that I I think can be really powerful when we're, excuse me for a minute. One of the things that she said that I think can be really powerful in the moments of our most challenging times. She said this because she knew better. She knew that whatever she was experiencing was temporary. And so she would declare, "This too is God, this too is good, and I demand to see the blessing." She would sometimes say, "This too is good, this too is very good, and I demand to see the blessing." For she had a habit of transposing and using both good and God in the same, she felt they meant the same thing to her. And so she would declare that. And so I know many a metaphysician who has been up to their eyeballs in it and have simply, I want you to try it. Try it with me right now. Bring a situation that is challenging you to mind. And now repeat after me. This too is good. This too is God. And I demand to see the blessing in it. Yes, yes. I want you to put that in your tool belt as you're walking through the world right now. Not to pretend things aren't happening, but to actually lean in. What is it that wants to awaken in you right now from whatever you're experiencing? Because when we do that, we create an environment of expectancy, an environment that makes things welcome, like the monk mentioned, an environment that has us not push things away. There's a great story that a palliative care physician, Dr. Ira Byock, talked about. He was a physician that worked with people who were dying, with really, had difficult diagnosis, and he would sit with them as they went through their end-of-life process. And he tells of a man who was dying of cancer who shortly before his death said something that kind of blew everybody away. He said, "I would never have chosen this illness, but I would not trade what it has given me for anything." His family was like, what do you mean by that? And he explained that before he was sick, he had been constantly busy, work, travel, deadlines, obligations. Life moved quickly, and he rarely stopped long enough to truly notice the people he loved. Illness forced things to slow down. Conversations became deeper. Time with family became sacred. Ordinary days became meaningful. And he said that through the illness, he finally learned how to be fully present with the people in his life. And he shared that he wished he had learned this earlier. Now, I venture to say that most of you aren't dealing with a terminal diagnosis. Don't wait. Don't wait for life to serve up something to you something that wakes you up so potently, so vividly, that you can get things in perspective. the blessing was not the illness. The blessing was the awakening that came through it, because sometimes the blessing is not the removal of the difficulty. Sometimes the blessing is the clarity that difficulty brings. I've been navigating some difficulties of my own, some challenges that I didn't expect. Kind of like, I didn't see this coming. And there's a part of me that wants to chase certainty, right? If I just get some more information, anybody know what I'm talking about? Like if I just knew, it would be okay. But, and let's be honest, in our situations that we find ourselves in, sometimes it's important to get some information to know how to support yourself or someone else. But don't let it take you away from the moment. Don't let it distract you from the opportunity to be present. When we enter situations like this may be your master class in presencing. It may be your opportunity to wake up to something fresh and new within you. I want to read something from, as some of you may remember, I'm working with a book. It's a daily reader, and it's called Your Pivot Year. And I want to share today's reading because, you know, I love when Spirit does that. I have a topic, and Spirit just drops nuggets in my lap. And so Brianna Wiest writes, sometimes the walls that you once constructed as a safeguard become the same thing that prevents your love from pouring into your own life. The thing that prevents your heart from knowing the inside of someone else's heart. What once kept you safe begins to hold you back. The series of self-defeating ideas that serve little purpose other than to dissuade you from connection, than to remind you not to reach out from behind your fortress, lest you get burned or hurt. Sometimes the only way to break down those walls is piece by piece. You have to let yourself be open. You have to let yourself be seen in the smallest ways. Then you have to keep going and keep growing. You don't have to wake up tomorrow and be instantly better. You just have to practice thawing out what's gone cold and stiff within you. Do not allow your comfort zone to become your cave. Whew. Boy, did you feel that? Do not allow your comfort zone to become your cave. A cage. When we choose to expect something good, this too is good, this too is God, and I demand to see the blessing in it, we're not denying reality. We are inviting ourselves to experience it consciously and from a very awake space. We're inviting ourselves to discover what it is that wants to be our support system, wants to help us move through that. We want to be available. When we become vulnerable, when we open our heart. You know, Holmes has this great quote, and he says that God can only do for us what he can do through us. And when my heart is closed, sometimes the things that happen in life, those quakes and the shakes and the experiences and those avgos, sometimes that's just Spirit knocking on my heart. Open up. I want to come through. Vulnerability is where it's at, folks. So my invitation this week is to trust that even when life brings the unexpected or the unwanted, that we can pause, we can breathe a little deeper, and we can remember what the wise monk said, to welcome everything and push away nothing, and to remember Emma's declaration, to demand to see the blessing in it. And finally, in the words of my dear friend Sharon Wright, mild-mannered civilian, but just wise beyond her years. Everything is always all right in the end. And if it's not all right, it's not the end. Thank you very much. Okay. So let's take that energy of openness and availability into this thing we call affirmative prayer. And so I enjoy you to just lower your gaze or close your eyes and take these words as your own. There is a place that exists where there has never been harm, hurt, or discord. There is a place within the heart of God where no matter what is happening, we are safe. There is a place within you, completely accessible, that knows your greater good. And so I know for each one here that we access this space, that we allow ourselves to be present, to treat the episodes or experiences or challenges that come up before us as a masterclass, to presence ourselves, to breathe, to be in the here and the now, the most potent and powerful place you can find yourself. And knowing that present moment is always available to deliver us to an awakening, I trust for each one that we choose to be awake and aware, to live out this thing called life from a place of heightened consciousness, to trust that when the going gets tough, our spiritual practice gets going. And to know that we can always find ourselves supported, loved, and held up in the company of our community. And so I know for each one, regardless of what each one might be experiencing, that there is an upliftment of consciousness, of knowing, of possibility, and that each one can pause and begin to explore expectation, the expectation of what if, as opposed to fearing what is. And so it is with a grateful heart that I know this availability of consciousness, this availability of choice of how we think and how we move through life is available to each one, that we're willing. And it is with gratitude that I anchor this prayer, this powerful word in the law that always says yes. And today we say yes to possibility. And together we say, and so it is.